sessions. Yeah, I guess it is January. So yeah, here we are for the second in the series of AI Insights with Ben, Enterprise Architect in Residence. And, this is turning into a habit, a really useful habit of learning about how AI is changing and how we can actually use it in a practical way. So Ben, what's the 15 minutes of fame today? What are you going to bring us?
So we'll be looking at picking up from where we went last time. So I'll do a bit of a recap, but essentially interacting with local LLMs through a llama at the API level. So we were interacting with them through a console text prompt, which is kind of similar to the web chat user interfaces that you'll see, for Anthropic and ChatGPT and things like that. But under the hood, and what your web browser actually does is it's sending API calls. So we'll install a piece of software called Postman, which is a user interface that lets you do the same API calls and also edit the payload, which is the data that you're sending. You can use this generally for lots and lots of things, but we'll show you how to interact with some of these tools, and then we'll be able to expand in following sessions to interact with other tools, but still using sort of Postman as our cornerstone.
All right, now on the geek spectrum, how geeky do I need to be to do this kind of stuff with Postman?
It has been on my mind an awful lot, but it's a user interface. It's a really, really well-established tool. If you do have a development team, they're almost certainly using this as well. But it lets you export and import things. So I've exported the collection that we'll go through today. So it should be a case of going to the Postman website, which I'll show, installing it following their very well written documentation, go to our public GitHub repository to download the collection. You can import it. And then if you did get Ollama installed last time, or you've got it running on a server or something like that, then you'll be able to then just follow and click the buttons.
Okay, well, come on, let's see.
Okay, all right, lovely. And we'll see. Yeah, we'll definitely see. Okay, fantastic. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, lovely. So this is the Postman website. This is by Postman. This is really pertinent and kind of the underpinning of this session. So not only is AI powered by APIs, the web in general is powered by APIs, and this is how different systems talk to each other and how user interfaces talk to backends and things like that. So Postman is free. You can download the desktop app using one of these links. It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. I'm using Linux today, but the application will just run regardless. So if you go to postman.com, click on one of these, and then you can install it and get started. Once you've installed it, this is our public GitHub repository. It's quite sparse at the moment. The URL will include in notes as well. It's github.com/flowmoco/canopy-ai-insights. And then if you go to the dated folder, you can then download this Ollama Postman collection. Once you've done that, this is Postman. You'll start off on the overview, but if you click on collections and then import, then you can select that file, and then you'll have these options for you for selection.
Okay, so it's all, you probably need some technical skills to understand what you're doing, but actually functional wise, this is all very clicky, pointy, easy stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll so all of this is kind of a follow along, and if we do more of these things, we'll do it in a similar vein where you can download, something that's already as a skeleton, get you started, and then you can just, download it, tweak the little bits, and it's all button, it's all UI driven. So I'll just do a bit of a recap. So the aim, what I'm striving for with this stuff is to empower founders to get closer to AI and other technology that you may well be looking at to utilize in your business, which could be back office or customer facing. So we're not really suggesting that founders will do the development work themselves, although that would be great. But the idea is if you can get a better understanding of these things, it'll help inform decisions. and your asks of others, as well as letting you hash out and try ideas and possibilities.
Okay.
So the last session, we got Olama installed. We were running LLMs, large language models locally, and we used the command line to interact with those. And that's, like I said earlier, reasonably close to the web kind of chat prompts that you get. So I've got Olama running, and this was how we were interacting with it last time, just through the terminal. So we'll start off by replicating that using Postman. So in the collection that you've imported, you'll have two requests, so under Olama. One is chat, which we'll talk about now, and then the other is embed, which is for later, and there's a segue for the future sessions as well. So I'll explain a little bit about it and things you need to care about, not care about, and lots more that you can explore. So there's quite a lot in here, and I'll just zoom into other bits and pieces. There's loads and loads of really well-written documentation all around Postman, plethora of YouTube videos around usage. But if you want to interact with APIs, backend systems, maybe you've had a look at the network tab in your browser and you can see some of the post requests that are going out. You can mirror that functionality within Postman. So this is a collection, so it's like a folder of the things that you want to do. These are requests, and you can create a new one by going add request. We're doing post requests, which generally mean that you're asking something to do something. This is already set up to essentially be where Olama is listening for information. And what you see here in the body is the payload. So this is the data that we're going to send to Olama. And the chat interface actually was doing this from the terminal for us anyway. So this bit's quite important, where it says stream false. That'll mean that it will wait until the LLM has finished creating an answer, and we'll get the single response back. So they'll feel like a bit more of a delay, but we're just waiting for it to have written it all, and it will send it back all together. I'll let you play with stream true, because it's quite interesting. This is the temperature, so the same parameter setting that we did in the last session. And
I like that. That really landed with me last time.
Okay, brilliant. So again, you can change that. You can set that to be 0.9, or 0 to remove some of that randomness. And the model is probably one of the most important things. Go to the Olama website and you can have a look that's in there. We're again using Olama LLM from Meta. So probably the most important things are the model, because you will get different types of answers depending on the model that you're using, whether it's a large parameter model, smaller parameter model, something that's come out, and really something to play with. So you don't have to do any prep. If you go to Olama and you pick a different model that you've not already downloaded, when you click send, there'll be a little bit more of a delay, but Olama will download the model for you. So you don't have to do anything additional to get this thing running. So that's really good to play with. You can play with the IBM Granite models and different bits and pieces as well. It's also worth mentioning that this is also how you'd interact with ChatGPT. So ChatGPT will have a slightly different endpoint, which you'd be able to get from their documentation, and then you'd have to put your API key in as an authorization, but it's essentially the same. So you can use this as a base to play with other things as well. So apart from the model, then we've got this. This is what we were typing in last time. This is the question. So I'm going to go off starting where we were before. So I've just sent hello, and you can see we've got quite a bit more information back. I won't go through too much of this. Feel free to look it up. This is the response that we've got. Now, some of this stuff like message role assistant, message role user is important, and we'll go through that stuff in later sessions when we're doing a bit more of a deep dive into retrieval augmented generation, RAG concepts, and also semantic search and vector databases. But for now, if you just think this is the text prompt. So if I want to type something, I just modify this. So we can go with the classic, why is the sky blue? And then ask that, and we'll get a much larger response. And that's why it's now thinking about it. And it's actually, it would be typing out little bits, each token at a time. But because we've got stream false, we'll just wait for it to have the single response. And that's come through. So not quite rendered in the same way as when you're using the text interface. We've got these are line breaks, these are new lines that are in there, but you can see that we've got the information back. Another thing, so you could feasibly use this to sort of save chat sessions. So, you know, if I was like, oh, okay, I quite like what it did there, I want to record, you know, save that for last time, but I actually want to go, why is the sky green? Then, you know, this is a comment, so this isn't being sent. That's why it's like a grayed out kind of color. And then we can ask it different things. We'll be doing a lot more of this in later sessions. So kind of skimming across the top. You can see here, the sky is not actually green. And I'll let you guys play with some of this stuff. Like I said, we'll be revisiting this. But the other thing that I wanted to cover today to unlock some of the future sessions is embeddings and embedding models. So I'll talk very briefly about that. So embedding models are really important and really interesting. They've been used in more advanced searching like Google type searches and semantic searches rather than sort of keyword searches for a long time. And they're often coupled with vector databases, and you'll see for that in a minute. So what an embedding model does is it generates a set of numbers which is a representation of the semantic meaning of the text that you've given it. So in a very simple term, it'll encode a question or a search or something like that as a number representation. And then how the search engines work and how the retrieval augmented generation concepts work is they use these vectors because this is a set of more than one number. They use these vectors to retrieve things that are similar. So we'll go through the process with some visuals in a follow-up session, but essentially you can encode your question as a set of numbers. In a database are lots of other sets of numbers, and the vector database will return the closest match. Now, the reason that's really interesting is these embedding models, and there's lots and lots. We'll be using this one today. These embedding models, they allow users to ask questions in plain text. They've got a very high level of natural language understanding. They understand synonyms and related concepts. So that means that if you're not quite using the right words that are exactly in the database, you'll still get a good match. And that's why we call it a semantic search. So they're good at bridging industry-specific jargon as well. Something else that's really important is they're cross-language. So the numeric representation you can think of as being language agnostic. So you could come up with your query to match against. It could be English, French, any language, and it doesn't really matter what's in the vector database. So that's really important. And obviously vector databases are kind of exploding at the moment. There's loads and loads that are coming about, which underpin a lot of the RAG concepts, but also semantic search. So for founders, this stuff is important because it's the underpinnings of RAG capabilities, but also, if you've got a knowledge base or you've got a website that's got a lot of content and you want to give your users a better search capability, embedding models, vector databases, and semantic search can be a way that you can do that. Good example is, if you had which this is something that we've been actively doing semantic search on a medical database to do with knees. if you say my knee is painful and you're using a keyword search and the database doesn't include the word painful but includes the word hurts, you won't get a match. Whereas if you use a semantic search, you will get a close match because it knows that pain and hurt are semantically very close. So I'll switch to the embed request in the shared collection. This you can't interact with Ollama through the terminal to generate embeddings. So as well as this being really important to explore some of the RAG stuff later, it's the only way to get a vector, a numeric representation of your input. You have to use something that can query the API. So this is lifted straight from a page on Ollama. Here we go. And this is, so curl is a command line tool for doing the same thing that Postman does. If you ever see that, that's the endpoint that you can copy and put that into here. And then what's within these brackets is the JSON payload. So all I've done is I've copied this and I've pasted it into here. It's very similar to the chat one. This is the model. You can use any of these. Although notice that these parameter sizes and these models are a lot less than the LLMs. So they do run a lot better on commodity hardware. So I'm going to click send. You can hold control and push control and enter, but that won't show up on the recording. And you can see here that we've got the response. The response came back pretty quickly, 1.15 seconds. And that is our vector. So that's our numeric representation. The vectors will always be a set size, which is a configuration part of the embedding model. They do differ, but generally, you aim for a vector of the same size. And if you change the input, then you'll get a different set of numbers. Now that's quite dry. So if you can imagine, and this is something that we'll be doing in the next session, is we'll generate some embedding versions of search queries, and we'll have an embedded version of something to search against. And then when we do a semantic search, it will say this is this close to the input that you've asked. But we'll go through that in a later one. So I'm hoping that people go away and play with this and get to grips with it. This is much more around unlocking some of the future sessions, but we'll be using Postman as the cornerstone for a lot of that stuff. So
nice. Well, Ben, in my old world, I'll tell you what this reminds me of is actually Toad, which used to be a tool that you can interrogate SQL databases with. It sort of looks and feels and has a kind of similar functional way to it to Toad. I don't know if you ever used that. It was a few years ago now, but
no, I haven't personally. But yeah, there's lots of similar things, and it is this. I've signed up for a free account. We use it at work. The reason for that is you can sort of share these collections with teams or friends and things like that. So it's really good for sort of collaboratively working on some of this stuff as well. But it's a great UI. It's amazing what's around to save for some low-level interaction.
Fantastic.
Those things.
Well, thanks for this, Ben. In a week, there's been a lot of coverage around distilling and these kind of things. It's great to see these kind of tools, and it kind of brings home how easy it is to kind of interact at this level and do that kind of stuff. So thanks for that. And what can we expect next week? Oh, the next time, sorry, in 2 weeks' time when we do this? Have you got that one teed up yet, or are you? You got like a whole series in your head. I can tell. Look at that.
I'm trying. Yeah, we're trying to go on the journey. So I think what I'd like to do. So this has been around the underpinning technologies of RAG and semantic search. What I'd like to do next time is try and look at vector databases. So there's an awful lot. Weaviate has had a lot of investment and a lot of announcements within the last couple of weeks. That's a really well-functioned one. There's another one called Quadrant, I think, or Quadrant D. Apologies if I've got the name wrong. And they're all open source vector databases. similar to Olama. You can run it on your own machine locally. You can run it on your own server. There's no initial cost. So what I'd love to do would be getting some vectors into a vector database and then generating a vector of a query, and then we can see how we get that kind of semantic similarity match. That would cover off how semantics, the very basics of semantic search working. So that would maybe give some real value to founders or business owners that are considering wanting better search capabilities on their own systems. And then once we've done that, we can step onto RAG concepts, because all of the same technologies are used. It's just that RAG then it also incorporates an LLM to give nicely worded answers.
Okay, fantastic. Look, if you're a member of Canopy Community and you've watched this today, you're interested to know more, then obviously you can set up a session with Ben using the in-residence team links and chat this thing through. Or if you've got a specific problem and you just want a bit of help, that's what Ben's there for. You can get half an hour with Ben just to have a look at something and see how he can help you. Okay, so Ben, it's really great for you to share all these stuff. Thank you so much for bringing this kind of knowledge to everybody. Appreciate it very much. I'm learning something every time. I'm looking forward to next time already. All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks, mate. Oh, and as they say where I am today, bon fin de semaine.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.